Previously, in Away from the Keyboards.
One person that I just referenced, I talked to this week, he's becoming the Agile Wizard.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Away from the Keyboards. Exciting stories shared over a virtual coffee. I am your host, Julio, and today I am joined by none other than the man, the legend, the Agile Wizard himself, Julio. Julio is an experienced Agile coach who brings a rare combination of technical depth, coaching insight, and a passion for game theory to the teams that he works with. He helps organizations deliver fast and, more important, build the right thing. In this episode, we will explore how the Agile Wizard came to be, how having a technical background can sometimes help and challenge your coaching style, and what really takes to unlock high-performing teams. Julio also shares practical advices for anyone stepping into the world of Agile coaching, especially those coming from an engineering background. So if you're curious about how games, mindset shifts, and a bit of wizardry can transform the way your teams work, this episode is especially for you. So without further ado, Julio, Agile Wizard, welcome to the show.
Thank you mostly for inviting me here, Rui.
I've been waiting for a long time to ask you this first question. How did Julio become the Agile Wizard?
Well, it's actually a funny story here because I've been very long already in the space of, for example, like DevOps or like improvements and so on, where you try to automate things or where you try to improve processes. And there's like a whole background where I started as a just normal help desk engineer, then went to support engineer, more infrastructure and cloud, eventually even towards security, so that you get the DevSecOps cycle actually. And at some point in my career, I actually got high enough, I think, on the technical side, where I was talking with architects and I was talking with, like having full on migrations, for example, or adding extra things on top, where I found out that despite having the knowledge to do these technical things, the biggest problem was always that there was a person somewhere blocking the project or someone that said like, no, I don't want to do this for a political reason and so on. So I got to realize there, actually the technology is there and it will work. And, you have enough smart people out there. But the biggest blocker within a company is actually if someone from management potentially is blocking the whole process for maybe a reason that they don't know of, or maybe they're scared or whatever's out there. And that got me moving more towards, for example, Scrum and Agile, because I've seen multiple Agile things being implemented within a company, and seeing that multiple times, every company makes other mistakes. And some of them are the same, but every company makes others of them. So I got very interested in the whole optimization thing, which led me into getting my PSM certification, got me further into looking at, okay, what's the Agile Manifesto and what are all of these people doing? Eventually found Matthias Orgler, I think it was the previous one that you interviewed. And based out of that, there was one of the things that he said at the very beginning of his ACE program, which was, when you are an Agile coach, you should try and find your own way of how you would like to explain things. And me personally, Julio is a gamer, so I've been gaming since my whole life. And basically out of that, there's also something that I really like, which is Dungeons and Dragons. So I just asked him the question and I said, look, Matthias, imagine you have a client, which is a bank, a very serious client. They have to be compliant. They have to make sure that they get their audits and so on. And you would have a guy come in to the meeting room, full on wizard suit, going to give you a workshop. Do you think that would be possible? And he actually said, yes, it would be possible. So I kind of started playing with the idea, where I even wrote a background for the Agile Wizard, how the Agile Wizard came into this life. And that's basically how it sprung out. That's how this Agile Wizard existed.
That's so cool. Tell me a bit more about the background story of the Agile Wizard.
So the Agile Wizard actually has an evil brother, and the evil brother is actually named Waterfall. And what Waterfall actually did is he conjured a spell over the years that Waterfall became a wizard, and he was able to travel different kind of dimensions. And at some point, he traveled back in time with this dimension travel, where history was changed in such a way that the world where Agile Wizard was living in became very, very bad. Like he had to fight off monsters and devils and dragons and all of these kind of things. Where at a certain point in time, when he was fighting his last enemy and actually about to die, somehow got teleported in one way or form and ended up here on planet Earth. And for some reason, his magic is not working because, like, he can't cast spells. I can't cast fireball. I cannot cast meteor or even wish if I wanted to. But for some reason, my brain still knows all the spells and it knows how to do certain things. And the only way that I'm able to find my brother to make sure that history is not changed in this very bad way is by teaching others enough about the knowledge that I have so that at some point when my brother tries to influence them, people are like, nah, that's not the way. That's not how you do things.
And how do you bring the game theory and all of that experience of playing games into your coaching, into your teaching? Because you did ask me to get a D20
Oh,
as well.
yes. Yes. Well, so there, I think what you see a lot when you are in a workshop, any workshop at all, it is very strict. It is about, okay, this is what you're going to learn, A, B, C. It's like if you're in school, basically, but boring school. Because if you have an actual teacher, they like to do things fun. And it really depends on, of course, the person who's teaching or the person who is going to be giving that specific course or coaching. And what I like to do there is to get the fun into things. So there is something, for example, which is called insights. I don't know if you've ever heard about that specifically, but insight talks about a person is actually, you can identify a person as a specific color. For example, if you're a boss, you would be a red color. If you're someone from HR, you would be a green color. If you're someone who's more analytical, you would be a blue color. But if you're someone who's more looking on exciting things or really wants to like vamp things up or make funny jokes and so on and really see the fun in things, you're more on that yellow side. Like I'm gonna give you a little secret here. I'm pretty yellow. Just letting you know there. And it's out of that I'm like, okay, look, I need to give certain information that all of these other agile coaches are also giving, but I want to spin it my own way. And for example, let's do a very small session D&D like, so that you can experience, okay, what is D&D about? And then let's do the exact same thing for like a small lesson, for example, in Agile. So imagine you are a bard going through town because you're trying to find out where specific mystical creatures are living. You're in a bar right now and you'd like to ask something to the bar maid who's behind there if he's heard something. So, what would you specifically like to ask the barmaid?
I'll try to ask about the thing that.
Yes. So, what I would now say is roll me a d20 charisma check. So now you need to roll.
Let's see what comes out. 4.
4. So, actually, when you try to ask that specific question, you see that she actually goes back into fear immediately because there's definitely a creature lying around here. She just doesn't want to say anything. And she kind of points to like a mysterious stranger sitting on the side of the table. And imagine you would have rolled better. I would have been able to say, okay, well, she tells you about a certain creature that you're looking for. And because of that, you find out the information is X, Y, and Z. So what you're able to do is you're able to go to a certain direction where I really control what the narrative is, but you are the one who's interactive with that specific narrative. So I can always come to the same result. However, I can tell you the story in a different way where you're more engaged into the story. And what is even more important, that you're able to live through the story. So it means that you do not only know, okay, this is maybe the thing that you're trying to learn. It also means that you're living through such a story by rolling the dice. You're like, oh, I rolled a 20 just at a really good time when I had to roll it. And you will remember that moment way better because you do not only have your agile coaching session there or workshop, you have your team building at the same time because, you know, like dice are involved and who doesn't like to roll a dice?
For me, I'm a very visual learner and tactile. Like if I'm learning something that is technical about code or anything like that, the best way for me to learn is to go about it, code it, make it work, make it fail, doesn't really matter. And if I just see it in a YouTube video or something else, it doesn't work. And by the way, you were telling the story and I'm visualizing the story.
Yeah, that's really what I want because, like, what is also very important in this setting, right? Because that's the first thing. One, you're visualizing it. The second thing also is that it enables you, once you go through this kind of exercise, to also use that in scenarios. Because imagine you have something that you're doing, and suddenly during the workshop, you actually have people fighting each other. Because sometimes it happens, there's emotions out there. So instead of then trying to go to the emotion directly, which not always everyone is able to handle specifically, definitely if you're working in IT, you're with neurodivergent people, which is also maybe a little bit harder. What you could do, for example, instead is that you walk to this mysterious man that this bartender put you towards, and he immediately pulls a knife. Now, you are not really the fighting type. So what would you try to do right now against this person having this knife pointing towards you?
I'll try to pick up a chair.
So you put a chair in front of between you, so you have some distance in between you, and it's like he tells you something, which is like, "What do you want from me?" Like very hostile at this moment in time. So what do you say?
Chill, I'm just trying to find something in this town,
What specifically are you looking for?
something that is wrong.
Are you saying that I'm wrong?
Yeah, that's going to escalate quickly.
Yeah. So what I would then say, for example, right now is that you could jump in and say, like, look, you could try and persuade him with the exact reasons that you're doing. Because one of the things that is the most agile thing to do, it's one of the first pillars, is transparency. So what I would say right now is that your character is going to try and be very open and then say exactly what he wants. He's looking for a mystery creature. You're there to tell a story, and you can roll me a d20 right now for persuasion.
Let's see. 15.
So with a 15, you actually convince him enough about your story. Like he's still a little bit skeptical because he still has a knife. He wants to stab you, but he does read that you're honest with him and that you really want to find out where this mystical creature lies. And he buries the knife at this moment in time. Now, imagine we go now back to the agile coaching session or the workshop that we're in. What would this person have to do to make you drop the knife right now? What would he have to say so that you are not aggressive and vice versa? And let's listen for a second here, because it's the only way that you're able to do it. So now, because they're in this other scenario, you are bringing them out of the enterprise environment or out of the environment that they're always in. And you can show them visually what is happening actually here at the table, because you're maybe just screaming or you're pointing fingers, but they don't see the physical knife that they're putting up. They don't see the chair that they're about to pull and about to fight with the chair. And because you make that visualization, they start to realize, oh, wait, why are we even doing this in the first place? And it enables people to get out of a zone where they finally know, look, I can be as open as I wanted to, because you could have told me, actually, I don't care about the guy. I'm going to go for a drink. Or you could have told me, I take out my banjo and I start playing. There is no limit to what you could do, but you chose to pick up the chair, put it in between. You chose to persuade this person. It was your choice, not mine, which also puts into your mind the training immediately that my agile coaching is doing. You're persuading people in a way where you're not directly saying you have to do it this way. You let them play through it, which hopefully learns them, hey, this is another way of handling. And what makes it good as well is that with most D&D sessions, normally you schedule something which is called session 0. And session 0 is mostly I talk to you and I say, Rui, what character do you want to play? And is there something that you specifically like? And based on that, I can kind of tailor the story towards you. Well, that same thing I do to clients as well. So before I have my workshop or before I start working there, I ask them, hey, are you open to maybe have like a half hour or an hour call before I start, so that at least I can already fine tune some things before I'm actually there. And then when you are there, you then have, oh, wow, this guy really listened to me. Like he really wanted me to do a certain thing. Or for example, you could warn me and say, look, this is a very heavy subject and we need to watch out how we talk about it. So I could even write a scenario in this D&D world that looks like the scenario that you're experiencing at work, but it's not work, which allows people to be open about what is being said instead of, I'm attacking you, I'm attacking you. No, I'm attacking an orc. I'm attacking this hobgoblin. I'm attacking this dragon. You're not attacking me as a person.
And that touches upon what Matthias was also talking when we had our chat about the power of bringing these games into the sessions, is the simulation aspect of it, where you can take the people out of what is the normal day to day, where there could be some animosity, there can be some personal conflicts, whatever it is, and just go into a simulated parallel world where those stakes are not the same, but somehow kind of manifests as well, maybe as a dragon instead of database burning in production or something like that.
Yeah, it could be. Or not even like the dragon is a database burning. It's like, there's a dragon and he's about to attack the town, making the town completely burned, where the town is your servers. How are you going to solve this dragon, right? I mean, you can't just go there and you whack it with a sword, or you have to be extremely strong, right? I think like Elon Musk did something like that, where he just like whacked all the servers out when he had to move with X. But that's going into detail, like how you handle a dragon. Everyone else does it another way.
Yeah, he did wear a dragon fighting costume once, I think, to the Met Gala or something.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that was what he did when he joined X. And that kind of leads me to a follow up, because we just talked about two very non-technical and also the technical subjects. So how do you see your technical background as a systems engineer in the trenches doing really IT work? How do you see that helping you in the sessions that you do?
Oh, it's enormous. Like the best example I can give is, imagine you have two engineers, and one engineer is a Windows engineer and one engineer is a Unix engineer, and they've never done the other operating system, and you let them talk to each other. It's not going to work. I can tell you right now. However, if you have a third person in between that has done both of these systems and is able to make that translation, it is an incredible amount of work that you're saving at that moment in time. Because instead of, oh, I need to confirm with this person, I need to confirm with that person, you can already make some decisions in your own mind that, like, okay, well, this is the direction that we probably have to go. And it's easier to talk to those people. That's number one. Number two, you know what risks are involved. Or, for example, imagine that you need to make a QP demand and you need to fill in, this is the amount of days that we need you and blah, blah, blah. Then it also means that you can make a pretty good estimate on what are the changes required. Because, for example, I could tell you, hey, can you add this line to the website? And then someone else is like, yeah, that's going to take 5 man days. And you're like, what the hell? 5 man days? Why is it 5 man days? Well, we have to reproduce it on dev. Then we have to reproduce it on UAT. We have to reproduce it on the PPE, whatever environment that you all have. And then he tells you, well, we don't have pipelines. We don't have anything. So everything's manual. And we need to make sure that we do X, Y, and Z. And you have to think about these other processes are also being pushed out. So suddenly, instead of going to your upper management, because now I'm management basically, and saying, hey, this is going to take 1 or 2 man days, probably, you can already tell them it's going to take 5 or 10 man days. Oh, but why is it that long? Well, probably because of this reason, this reason, this reason, but I will confirm in the end. It sets expectations or enables you to set expectations quicker.
And what is the reaction that you see from the engineers? Basically, the engineers just look at you like, wait, you know this?
So I've had an experience in enterprise where people are very good at hiding work or hiding that they don't want to do the work. And a very specific example is, I asked a specific engineer, hey, could you do this in a specific solution? It's a security solution called CyberArk. So like, hey, could you activate this specific option for me? Like, I think it would be, no, that's not possible. And you can't do it and this and that. And what I actually did is I went to the documentation page of CyberArk. I looked up exactly where it was. And I said, look, here's the check-in, check-out option. If you change this platform setting from false to true, it should enable that specific option. Now, I don't know what your change process is. I can check that with your manager right now, but could you already give me like an estimate how long this would take? And he immediately changed his tone. He was like, oh, you actually know that? And it's like, yeah, it's probably going to take like a day and a half with the automation and testing that we have and so on. So you suddenly feel that they are talking to someone that is from the same space, and you get a lot of more information out of people that I think as a normal manager, you would not be able to get out.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same thing, that the fact that you are able to speak tech with the tech people, you get a different type of respect from them. It's like you're part of the same guild as if you're just an outsider that just knows the other part of the business.
Yeah, and to me, like, and I'm gonna be honest here, like for me, it was very recently that I became with Agile Coaching and so on. I think like I've been doing it now for I think 3 years. I still call that recently versus someone else who has that real experience there. Because I was kind of like in a transition, like where I was 50% doing still security technical positions, but 50% kind of scrum mastering at that moment in time. And now I'm fully in that. And what I'm going to start noticing, and I think will be very hard for myself, is that I'm going to lose my touch at some point with the technology. And the only way I will be able to combat that losing the touch, because I'm not busy with it every day, is that at home I have my own home setup, like with Docker, for example, and a Synology NAS and all that kind of stuff. So after my hours, I like to do these cool projects where it's like, okay, how about I set up this full pipeline with everything that enterprise never tells me to do? And that's where I kind of stay in touch with the technology. It might not be that I'm going to be expert in it, but it allows me to still keep on talking with engineers who know a lot more. Because, for example, one of the things that I haven't touched yet, and I should, is AI. Like, I think AI is going to get huge in the future. I just don't know exactly how this will be going, because if it's just replaces everyone, then what do we have to do, right?
Indeed, like if that's the end goal of AI, like learning AI, not learning AI, doesn't really matter in the end. Like you, there's many people also in a technical background that start doing their first steps in Agile. What advices do you have for anyone is looking maybe to do that first step that is in question? Should I don't know, learn about Agile, learn about Kanban, learn about XP or something else? What would be your advice for them to start their learning career and their curiosity into the Agile world?
Well, actually, let me roll for that on how I'm going to give that advice. So I rolled a 12. So I'll just give the regular one out there. I think I have very unorthodox advice there. And the unorthodox advice that I have is that mostly when you're in a technical position, everything is very clear. You have to do it this way. You have to click on this setting. You have this kind of API call or automation. And throughout experience, you start to notice like, well, they didn't think about this specific feature, or they're not doing this specific feature because they don't want to be liable for something, or maybe the product has an hidden agenda and so on. And what I found is that when you look at agile transformations and when you look at how those transformations are set up, they are not implemented in the real agile way. So, what I'm trying to say there is that imagine you have gone through several companies already and they've used the buzzword agile basically, and you're like, this doesn't work. Why should I actually go agile? Then the biggest advice that I can give you is that most of the agile methodologies that have been implemented in a company were adapted because management didn't want to implement it in the agile way. And because of that, when you go to, let's say, go for a certain certification, or you would have these very big agile workshops, or even that you're like got like boot camps for 5 days, is that you take them with a pinch of salt. Because the best advice I can give you is, if you are in the automation world and you have some automation background, or you understand what automation is about, just think logical. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, agile is not about technology. It is actually more about people than anything else. So whenever they're saying with agile, oh, we need a pipeline and we need this and we need that, those are things that come out of agile as an output. But agile itself is looking more in a people-centric way. And the best example I can give you, which is an example that I received, I think like a year or 2 years ago, was that someone who is doing RPA, which is like something that mimics clicks of a user, he sent out a message at some point of an email that said, can we please contact this person because we want to replace him by an RPA agent? What did that person do? He did not collaborate at all with the project. So Agile says, oh, it would be really good to put like an RPA agent there because, it can work 24/7 and would be better, no human mistakes and so on. But the people aspect there is, wait, you're going to replace me? Why would I ever, do that? And the people aspect there, Agile will never teach you. There's no methodology, there's no framework that would dare say, this is how you handle the situation. What Agile says is handle people like they're adults, which would mean maybe prior saying to him, hey, we're going to replace you, maybe you want to give him something else. Maybe you want to give him a course. Maybe you want to ask them, look, there's going to be a point where we're going to be planning this. Let's be transparent here. But is there something that we could do for you so that we can enhance your career? Because in the end, where this person is thinking of is making sure he can pay his house, making sure that his wife and his daughter or his partner has food on the table, or maybe, I don't know, he has a dog that he really loves, or whatever hobby he has or they have. That's where you need to think of the people.
Is there like any books, any resources that you can share that you used before, or that you advise people to look it up, to learn a bit more about the human-centric part that is behind the technology?
Yes, there is one book that I recommend that every manager should read. And as a Scrum Master or as a product owner or as an Agile coach, you're going to be in that position, which is a book called Performance Coaching from John Whitmore. It is one of the best books that I've ever read, like no joke out there, because it teaches you about how you should ask certain questions. It has some stories in there that are very important to understand. There is some data that you can get out of that book in the end, where he makes a summary of on how to use it. And it's a way for you that if you have issues with an individual, which also happens a lot in enterprises or these scenarios, how can you coach this person? Because there's a very big difference between mentoring and coaching into the right direction. That's the book that you would have to read. And I've got like a couple others, but that's the book of all of them.
That sounds like a perfect book for everyone to spend some time in reading, and a great way for us to end the show. Agile Wizard, thank you so much for coming to the show and having this chat with me. If people want to know more about you, if they want to send you a love letter, if they want to hire you, where is the best way for them to reach out?
Well, they can always find me on LinkedIn. So if you just Google or like LinkedIn to Julio Sanchez-Tirado, you will see like a wizard icon in front of my name. Then you know you reached me. But I also have a website that I'm working on currently, which is Sanchez.coach. Where I'm trying to put all of my services that we give, like we give workshops, we, for example, work as a Scrum Master for you, also very specific for potential enterprises listening, where my expertise is more in the infrastructure world and security world. I can still do everything else, but that's really where my specialization lies. And a new service that I hope to introduce as of next year, which is retrospectives as a service, because I believe that one of the biggest things that goes wrong in a company is retrospective. And I hope to bring it in the world, so that maybe works.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Away from the Keyboards. A big thank you to Julio, the Agile Wizard, for sharing not just frameworks and strategies, but also the mindset behind great coaching. If you enjoyed this conversation, consider sharing it with a friend or a teammate who is navigating their own Agile journey. And if you're curious about how play, structure, and empathy can come together to create better teams, well, maybe you're just a wizard as well. Until next time, stay curious, keep building great things, even when you step away from the keyboards.